Hey, welcome back to episode number 62 of the Group Project Podcast. I am with somebody who I've actually known for, I don't know, maybe going back probably 4 years, 5 years ago. Her name is Allison Phelps, and she is a yoga teacher and mindfulness coach in Muscatine, Iowa. Allison, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So full disclosure. So I actually took classes, and Allison was an owner of a yoga studio,
Mhm.
and I took classes from her for a couple years. And I'm not just saying this. Like, I'm sure everybody says, "Oh, my yoga coach, my yoga instructor was great." Like, Allison is fantastic. I mean, she is, everybody who's ever had her as a yoga teacher, instructor, coach has like raved about her. It's no wonder that everybody loved going to your classes.
Appreciate that.
So I was a high school principal in the city that Allison lives in. Right before I left, or right as I was leaving to come here to Central Iowa as a superintendent, Allison actually got a job as a mindfulness coach in the school district that I left. Is that correct, Allison?
Yeah. Yep.
So, this podcast is for educational leaders. We've got people from all over the United States who listen. Some people probably, and very few people here in Iowa have actually like heard of a mindfulness coach in a school, in a K through 12 school. Tell us, like, what is this position? What do what do you do in this role that you have in the Muscatine school district?
Well, I teach kids how to be a little bit more mindfully aware of their bodies and mind, to put it into really a small little verbiage. But the younger kids, we do more play. So, and it's easier for them to buy into it. The older ones, secondary and high school kids, you have to, get them to buy in. Why do you do this for your body? But I think if we can start them young, you will be able to go through life being more of a human being than just only a human doing or doer. There's more and more people are learning about mindfulness and yoga and how it can help themselves in their own life. I got into yoga originally just for like the body part of it. And then I stuck with it because it really saves sanity, which in turn helps me with my body. It's kind of connecting that mind, body, spirit, and not in, I know a lot of people at first have the stereotype of yoga as being directly related with religion. And I think culturally, a lot of us have religious roots, but it's more in my mindset of philosophy, to, better yourself in whatever way you'd like to better yourself in. It's not telling you what to do. It's helping you decide how and when and where you want to do something. Okay. It's like in the shower in the morning. Most people are never actually in the shower in the morning. I know it sounds kind of mumbo jumbo. Like you are already at your first meeting or in your first class or driving down the road or just thinking about something else that's going to happen. You're not actually being aware of what you're doing right there in the moment. Or you get off of work and you drive home and you park your car in your garage and you're like, I have no idea how I even got here. So you didn't remember the stoplights, you didn't see the people walking, you're just mindlessly aware of what's going on in your life. And that's not always a bad thing to tune some of the things out, but I think it can really help if you help better your life, if you become a little bit more aware of what's going on inside and the feelings that are associated with things that are happening around you. It's like that reaction with kids. It's a kid gets pushed, they want to push right back. Adults too, I guess, would have sometimes that similar feeling, but it's being able to control or limit reactions that are going to put you in a vulnerable spot or a spot that you don't want to be in, being able to look at the bigger picture. So that got long and wordy, but
It's okay. It is a long, and I've blogged about mindfulness before. It is hard to put into words what
yeah,
mindfulness and meditation and yoga, which we'll get into. I did a pretty poor job of setting up your introduction. Let's back up just a little bit. Maybe tell us how you got in. You talked about it a little bit. You kind of were working on, just physically your body. You're trying to, your kind of your workout or whatever. But how
yeah.
did you go from, is yoga mindful? Is that something you were always as a kid interested in, or as you got older, you got more interested in? And how did you become the owner of your own studio and then work your way into the schools? Maybe let's back up a little bit.
Okay. No, I was always into personal development. I always liked figuring out the reason why I did the things I did, or how other people ticked. I think helped me understand why I was feeling the way that I was feeling about certain things, or certain people in my life that had other issues going on. I think it kind of helps you have a foundation if you are aware of why people act the way they do around you. But no, I didn't get into yoga until I was in my early 20s. I was always into horses growing up, and I had some strong female influencers, and they really helped kind of guide me on a path to stay balanced and stay healthy. And if you work hard, then you'll be able to produce something later in your life that you love and enjoy. And then I went to school at the University of Iowa, and I think my first major was pre-vet. And so if I wanted to go through with that, I was going to go to Iowa State. And then I switched it like 6 times. And it was that mindless switching of, I don't know what I want to do. I have no idea. I'm confused at what I want to do in my life. I don't even know how I feel most of the time. And it was just a lot of really wishy-washy. And I think the yoga class was the only place that I really felt super centered and grounded. And I was able to really make some decisions after I was in a yoga class. I just felt like there was a breath of fresh air, and my head was clear, and I no longer had like this just stirring. I was able to kind of settle, and I felt very, very normal and very natural being in yoga. I was super inflexible and not in great shape, and I had all of these older people doing headstands and handstands, and if they can do it, I really should be able to mold my body to be able to do this at some point. And it happened. At some point along the way, I started to gain this flexibility. It was great. I felt open, and not just open physically, but it allowed me to be more confident and have more of a sense of knowing who I was. It's a good feeling.
So at the University of Iowa, you started taking some yoga classes, and you just really
Actually, I took a rest and relaxation class to my
okay.
parents. Like, what is this on your report card? Rest and relaxation. And still to this day, I can remember a lot of the class, and we'd be in this auditorium, and all of us would be lying on the ground, and it's 10 o'clock on, I don't know, it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And the lady would have to come around and wake us up sometimes because we'd get so relaxed. And as a college student, who knows what time you'd go to sleep and what all the stuff that you had going on. But I remember her breathing techniques that she taught us, and I still use them when I'm in my head and in a class. I will just bring myself right back to that moment of, oh yeah, that felt great. And I remember that. And I think that helped lead me into more of the yoga side and the body works and personal development side. I think mindfulness is a lot about finding out who you are in the moment, not judging who you are, because the judgment doesn't necessarily do anything for you, and just being there with it and being okay with the junk and stuff you've going on around you.
Yeah.
And then
Okay. Go ahead.
No, and then being able to move on with your life from that. Just
Yeah.
okay with it. Move on.
So you took this amazing class, which I would take. I would love to be in that class, a rest and relaxation class at Iowa. And then what after? I'm just curious how this your path to entrepreneurship with
Well,
starting your own business.
um, I got kind of a push because my husband's and his family have their own business, and listening to them always talk about, and I think as entrepreneurs or as people who own their own business, they are in it all the time. They eat, breathe, sleep it all. And so that helped, having a support of, this is how you start a business. So you go to the bank and you do this and you write a business plan. And I knew I wanted a yoga studio. I just didn't really know how to open one, especially in a small town, and especially yoga in Iowa. It's not, if you go to San Francisco, there's a yoga studio on every single corner, plus, and then more. And same thing with Chicago and New York and the bigger cities. But
Mhm.
here, it just really wasn't. There was a yoga studio that I knew of downtown, and she had a clientele that was pretty good about coming back. So, okay, how does that happen? How do you get into people that want to come on a regular basis? So you have to develop some of those clients. And I just started meeting people, and I opened a studio out of a little mini mall. It had carpet, which isn't ideal for yoga, and it didn't have mirrors, and it didn't have, not all yoga studios have to have mirrors, but I'd say the ones that I grew up going to did. And it was just four walls. And somehow people kept showing up, and I showed up to every class, no matter if there was 0 or 25. And I think that of, you get put down when no one shows up, and that's okay, and then you try harder. And but those smaller classes is where I really learned most about yoga and how to work with all types of people, and most about myself, how to really develop a yoga practice for myself mentally.
So you had this practice, and you talked before the show, like you've kind of always wanted to get into the K through 12 education side.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, in Iowa or in the Midwest, like yoga, mindfulness, it's not nearly as big and well known as it is on the coast or the bigger cities. So how did you get it, work your way into working in a public school district?
Well, I started researching it and seeing what other people have done in California or in New York or Virginia. And mental health is such a huge thing now, for good reason. There's a lot going on in society. There's a lot of kids with dealing with a lot of issues and social media. And I was just trying to see the next thing. What's the next thing that schools are going to want? Owning your own business is hard. It's not a constant stream of income, like anyone probably knows. At least a yoga studio isn't. If people don't show up, you don't get paid. If it shuts down, if the weather is bad, you don't get paid. If you're sick. And so thinking about having a family or having some sort of life routine looked very appealing for me. And I love working with kids. Kids are just, they're pure, they have spirit, they have energy, and I feed off of them. When I was working at the horse stable growing up, I helped run day camps, and they're just, the things that come out of their mouth, they don't judge you. It's like, it's fun. So I thought, starting at a younger age and instilling some of these things that I wish I would have had instilled in me could just create really confident, nice, honest, to themselves, not just for someone else. It's, when you feel good about yourself, like truly good about yourself, you're not going to be awful and rude and mean to other people.
Mhm.
It's that law of what you put in front of you expands. And that idea, you are the company you keep. I go through and I try to relate to people. There's this really good video on Kobe Bryant. And unfortunately, obviously, he died a year ago. But before that, I was showing it all the time. And it's him talking about mindfulness. If you have a moment, look it up on YouTube. But his coach started the mindfulness practice with their team. And how do you get so many people to, how many champions to win in basketball and all do this mindfulness practice and get into meditation? They're NBA players. But what it did was it helped lower their stress. They're sitting in a stadium full of, I don't know, 100,000 fans, and all the chaos is going on around them, and they're still tuned into their game. Well, same thing in a classroom. You're trying to focus on the teacher, the ball, your classmate, or your teammate, and then someone does something and interrupts the whole stream of learning. And that mindfulness can, no, I'm going to zero in focus, or I could completely stop what I was doing and focus on the thing that isn't actually going to get me anywhere, isn't going to help me in life. It's deciphering and being aware that you do have a choice when it comes to what you think about. And some people say, well, he was bothering me. I get that. Or he made me mad. Well, okay, let's go through that though. Like, did he make you mad if you're actually the one in control of your emotions? So if he made you mad, so he actually controlled your emotions. So you let him do that, right? And so you talk through emotions so it can be understood on a kid level. And then they're less likely to act out in the moment when they didn't have to push someone, or they didn't have to get so upset over something. And no, I don't have to get mad over that because it was just such a little thing. Mm-hmm. And I get kids coming up to me. I had a little boy he does boxing. And so before his boxing spar, he was talking about, he stopped me and Miss Phelps, before my boxing spar, I did really good because I was meditating on the sideline. I was like, you were? He's like in first or second grade.
Oh,
and
my
it's
gosh.
Cool. Because I talk it through. The meditation isn't just, you don't have to be a monk and sitting for 8 hours a day, every day for 100 years. It's just what you can put into it. Maybe 10 breaths in the morning and then 10 breaths in the evening. Or if you got chance to just sit for 3, at least you've got 3 breaths that you're aware of and you know how you're feeling right then and there. And that's 3 more breaths than it's being the witness of your thoughts. So like I'll take kids through this little exercise, this practice of say the word rock star, but don't say it out loud. And everyone's like, rock star. Don't say it out loud. Just say it to yourself in your mind. So everyone's super quiet, and you can look at them and they're saying rock star in their mind. And then you tell them, well, say it again, just a little louder. So they, in their mind, and then I'm like, now scream it in your mind, that one word, star, really, really loud. And then I'm like, so who said that? Is that you who said that? Or is that, just a thought, a narrative, a dialogue in your mind? You controlled what you were saying in your mind, but sometimes it's like we flip our lids and we can't control that. Mm-hmm. But it's just being aware and witnessing that the thoughts in your mind are not always true. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of times we get caught up in the judgments and the thoughts in our mind always being so true and so factual, and that's just not the case. So it's a whole nother set of education to the kids that they can apply to their schoolwork, because if you're off in la la land of this emotional distress and stressors that are happening in your life, and you could really be feeling them so intensely, but maybe just being aware that they don't have to be that intense. Now you can do your schoolwork instead of having to, miss class because you didn't want to go to school because you are having some sort of, a depression or limiting serious issues that are going on. If you can limit them, that's amazing, or lower them, because a lot of times kids just don't know how to handle emotions, and it leads to a lot of other things.
So educational leaders who are listening right now are probably like, I love everything you're saying, but I don't know what this position looks like. Like, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so crazy.
Can you maybe explain what your week I didn't even say day because I have a feeling it changes day to day. Can you give us like a typical week in your position?
Yes. So I'm at two schools, but I do some virtual still because there's virtual classes. I try to go in and out of teachers who've signed up with me for their classes. I try to go in and out of their classes at least once every 2 weeks, sometimes once a week. And we have a set time, and I'm in there anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. If they give me longer, I stay longer, but sometimes they're like, okay, cut it off. We've got math to do. But then I also do some small groups with kids that maybe need a little bit more social skills or movement of their body, but kind of reining it in. Sometimes when kids move their body, it's like balls to the wall, like 0 to 60. They can't do anything in between. So this is an awareness of movement. That's where the yoga comes in, the mindfulness. Or sometimes we'll just sit and do a guided meditation. So like today I did a 20-minute guided meditation with a 6th grader, and he talks to me about anger issues. I'm a safe adult that he can bounce off of, bounce some of his things off of. Not a counselor, not a therapist, but just another person that he could open up with. And then we did an anger guided meditation. Guided meditations I find are the best way. You can't just expect someone just meditate, go meditate. It hardly even works for me sometimes. I sometimes just need a guiding. And then I go SPED program. I'm into the special ed program quite a bit, and just working with different types of issues, working with different types of grade levels and stages, and a lot of times it's for the teachers too. They might just want a break and be able to connect with their kids on a different level. So watching the teachers engage with their kids, doing yoga and something else that's fun, and we'll say just eye-opening again, bringing some, if they're stuck and they're bored in their classroom, this is something that's kind of fun and engaging. Or maybe a lot of kids are testing this next week, and we'll do a 10-minute relaxation, refocusing before a test. I had, so this afternoon I had 4 virtual classes in a row, and I went from 1st grade to 5th grade to another just one-on-one virtual. And with the 5th grade, it's so much different, right? Because their problems are so different. But they're nervous about testing, and they're virtual. But so they haven't been in a classroom in however long, but they're taking their test in their school. And a lot of them are excited to go take the test in the school, but then that adds a whole nother level of anxiety on the test that they're supposed to be taking. And so we talked about, I asked them what they would do before a test, because I like to have that engagement between peers. Like, oh, this person did that. Maybe I'll remember that in the moment. Not just my teacher told me this, this, and this, and now I can't remember it all. And I actually told them I was a little nervous about coming on the podcast this afternoon. And I asked them what they thought I should do. And they're like, remember? And it was really good, because they actually, I guess, sometimes listen to me. They said, remember your mantra. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Or I talked about mantras and affirmations with them. And so on YouTube, I find celebrities that have certain affirmations or mantras and how it helps them. So in order to make this work, I always have to make sure that this is how this will help in your life, but this is also really cool because a celebrity uses this in their life. Like relate it in a fun way, not just a textbook told me that this works, this. No, Jennifer Lopez, if you look on her YouTube, she has affirmations and how she manifests things. And she always talks about, she wants her family healthy. And so instead of like, I want this, like, I have a healthy family and I'm doing good. And her thing is like, I'm doing good, baby. I'm doing good. So Sophie, who told me, the fifth grader, she's like, my mantra, you can use it if you want today, is, what did she say? She goes, oh gosh, it was, oh, you're looking good. You're looking good. And so it was like just something she would repeat in her mind over and over again. I'm like, well, does it work for you? Yeah, it works for me. Okay, good. The student's teaching the teacher now, right? It's a collaborative, using your mind to really input it.
It's crazy.
And I think that's super cool.
I just crack up. Some of the words or some of the things that you've said the kids have talked about. Hey, I just meditated, and use your mantra. Like, it just is great. I mean, that's impressive. What kind of, one question I wrote down was, and again, educational leaders who are listening are like, okay, I like everything you're saying. What kind of results are you seeing? Is there anything? Maybe it's just subjective. Maybe it's just kind of your gut feeling, like what you're seeing. Or do you have any other data that kind of backs up kind of the work that you're doing?
Well, in order to keep my job, I feel like I need to have that to be able to show. So I give the teachers every so often I'll shoot out a survey and ask them questions. How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think this program's actually benefiting you? How much do the kids ever talk about any of the words that we use? Mindful sitting. Mindful sitting is the one thing that I say when I first walk in a room, any room, hey, show me mindful sitting. So that's the sitting up straight, shoulders above the hips. I teach them how to hold their hands so they're not just needing to fidget. I teach them how to sit up straight so they're setting themselves up to pay attention, because if you set yourself up to fall asleep, right? They're just going to. So anyways, that's mindful sitting. But some of the other words, pause, breathe, smile, I go through that. How many kids are actually using these things? Have you noticed a difference in your class? Have you heard anyone using the yoga breathing? Do you actually think this is effective or not? Because if it's not effective, I'll move on. Or it is effective. I'm a huge believer, and I've gotten really positive results back on the survey. Rarely is there a time, but when there is a time that they're like, hey, do more of this, or the kids really like this, or this, let's talk more about, so they can really dive into it. I like that. How do you know if you don't ask?
Yeah.
So if there's girl drama or that sort of, they'll give me a little heads up. Hey, can you talk more about being nice to people? Or there's a lot of this just crazy reactions going on. They're just on each other all the time. Is there less of that when we do our SST meetings at Student Success Team? Let's use me to take, okay, so there's a counselor, therapist, AEA, the principal. Let's use our other adults in the school to also give these kids some positive role models around. Maybe they've got no positive role models at home. So is there actually data that I can take a percentage off of? Yeah, because I try to see the stress levels. If the stress levels have gone down, I was nervous about doing it this year because of the whole COVID stuff. How stressful do you feel your school is? And has it gone down during the year? Do you believe that it's because of a yoga mindfulness program? Are you using this outside? I ask the teachers, because I really do kind of feel like, and this isn't, I'm not saying anything bad about the teachers. I feel that the teachers have such a huge impact emotionally on the kids that if they're not aware of that, or they lose that awareness, because you can lose it along the way, right? You've got so much going on, that if they're not aware of how much they impact students, then that's that mindlessness. And so I feel like the survey that I give out gives them a little kick to be like, oh yeah, maybe I haven't been doing anything at home for myself. Maybe I should try mindfulness. Maybe I should, go to Allison's class a little bit. I've been offering a yoga class after school every 2 weeks at one of the elementary schools, and it's been building. More and more people are coming. That feeling of self-care is huge. I think substitute teachers are probably really expensive. And so if you're losing teachers left and right because they need like an at-home day because they're just so stressed, then, why not bring in some mindfulness, not just for the kids, but really for the teachers.
That was my question. So that class you've got every 2 weeks at the elementary school, is that for staff or for students?
Well, this one in particular is for staff.
Okay. I was going to ask you, because everything you're saying, it sounds amazing for kids. I don't know what kid would not want to be in that class with the things you're describing. I mean, talk about a way, kind of a break for the kids, but they're learning something about themselves and how to control their emotions. But I can think of how many staff would love what you're talking about. So besides the class, so you got classes every 2 weeks, it sounds
Well,
like.
and
Go ahead.
I haven't offered it to like every elementary yet. This school year has just been really weird and awkward. And so when teachers do have something after school, sometimes they've got a meeting they have to go to. And I'd like to, at some point, bring it back to the admin building and offer it for all teachers. But I was just going to try it at one of the elementaries to see if people showed up. Who knows? Maybe they just think I'm a crazy yoga teacher and they just But I feel like if I can get the ball rolling a little bit, so they come to a class, oh, okay, I could do this, or this isn't as bad, and just teach them where to put their hands and how to do a downward dog and the basics of yoga, then you might keep coming back if it feels pretty good and a good end to the day. To get someone to actually show up to something after work is so hard, because the last thing you want to do is more of something that you don't really like. So I think yesterday we had, 20 people show up and that's pretty good.
Wow, that's really good.
And it's offered to paras, and Muscatine, the district really has worked amazing with me. If I come up with an idea and they can see a benefit to it, a lot of times they'll, self-care, healthcare, reconnecting with people. Okay, so I don't know how it is in your school district, but a lot of teachers are not connecting as much as they used to, right?
No.
Because you have to be spread apart. So when are you actually getting along and talking with your peers anymore? So I wanted it to be like a reconnecting. It's something that you do together again with just teachers, not students, and see if, and I kind of noticed a little bit of more playfulness, more fun, we're not getting on each other's nerves as much. It's like, oh yeah, you did that fun thing at downward, we're joking. And I had kind of lost that joking because COVID has been so serious.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like a blanket over the school.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to move on to just some other general, mindfulness questions I have. Is there anything else about the school structure or setup that you wanted to share?
Well, if anyone wants to reach out to me and like get ideas for their schools, or if they're a teacher and they want to, see what exercises I'm doing or like the fun little things to incorporate into their classrooms, I'm totally up for that, because I will talk for hours. I've got like hundreds of different things that I've done that worked, and then some didn't work, and So
usually at the end of the show, I'll ask where people can get a hold of you at, but I think now seems like a great time. What's the best, if they do have questions for you about starting something in their schools, like what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Probably the Muscatine Yoga at gmail.com email, or you can find me on Facebook. I do still have my Muscatine Yoga Studio Facebook and page is up, and I like to post. I have my Mrs. Yoga Studio forum. Oh, that would probably be the best place, the Mrs. Yoga. A lot of the kids, I go down the hall and they call me Miss Yoga because Phelps is hard. That PH.
It is hard.
Yeah, the PH for that, it comes out like Phillips, or, like, what's your name again, or teacher. So I get the Mrs. Yoga a lot. So that's why on Facebook it's Mrs. Yoga Forum or Mindfulness Forum.
Okay, great. Because a couple thoughts I have before I move on are, I think it's a great position. Like, I would love to add it here. I also think, Allison, you've got like the right personality for it. I feel like some yoga instructors who are good at what they do, their personality probably would not translate well to working with students. That's the tricky thing, I feel like, is I'd love to add that position. I think I could probably find a way to make it work in our budget. I just don't have anybody who I know of who
Well,
would be
maybe
willing to do all the things that you said.
maybe down the road we'll do a training of some sort. That would be cool. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to be a school setting. It's different. It's not a yoga studio. I love working with teachers though, and like that atmosphere and the students, and it's always something new. That's what I love. It's not the mundane, which maybe is not mundane for someone else, but for me, sitting behind a desk all day long, like I love being up and active, and I can be very creative. You have to be super creative. I could see counselors taking on this sort of position, because it is I do a lot with the counselors, in the school district. Not all of them yet, but I would love to keep expanding.
If a kid, quick question I have, if a kid wants to meet with you one-on-one, is there any sort of consent form the kids have to sign off on, or parent permission, or is it not quite that strict?
Right now it's probably not. If that does happen, it comes through the teacher or the counselor.
Okay.
So I know ahead of time that it's okay. And I'm not someone who's taking their information or giving them advice. I'm just giving them tools to de-escalate or, be a support system in the way of doing yoga and mindfulness. So consent, I wouldn't really need that. But most of the time their parents have already okayed it. The school's never going to put a kid in a position where a parent would say, absolutely not. And because it is so, we had literature that went out at the beginning of the school year that said, hey, yoga's in our school. And I think they got very little pushback, but if they had questions, those were definitely answered. And most of the people were like, yeah, I'd love my kid to be able to sit in stillness and be a little bit more mindful about what's going on. So, yeah. And if it's kind of like the holiday thing, that's funny business in schools right now. So can you celebrate Christmas, or you just got to be careful. And it's not my own yoga studio, but I was very rarely ever pushing any direction of yoga. I'm a all-inclusive yoga teacher.
Sure. Okay, I was hoping to have time, Allison. You saw my notes. I don't think we're gonna have time because I want to dig into some of the personal growth questions with you because you're passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. One thing I'm just gonna tell the audience is that when I was a principal in that school district in Muscatine that Allison works in, Allison actually came to one of our admin meetings at the district office.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, talked about just the importance of mindfulness. But the coolest thing I really enjoyed about that was like you took us through like maybe a 5-minute mindfulness exercise. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah, I do.
And it was crazy. Like everybody's, at first everybody's kind of laughing, like, this is goofy. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to turn off the lights. Allison's, but I tell you what, at the end of that 5 minutes, or it couldn't have been much more than 10, like I felt so relaxed and so ready for the day. So I was hoping to have time. We're probably going to skip it for today. With that being said, I have been, in this district, we've talked about, I would say for any leadership team, and there's a lot of principals, superintendents, curriculum directors, whatever that are listening, there is nothing wrong with bringing in a mindfulness coach, a yoga instructor, whoever it is, to just do something fun for an admin or leadership team meeting or a retreat and just spend some time talking about mindfulness and going through some of those things. I don't know if you have anything else to say, but
well, the confidence, when you take someone out of their box, you just expanded, and they get through it. You just expanded their confidence. And when you can expand and open up someone's confidence in a situation where they were not feeling all that great about, and a lot of times an irritation or like this is weird or goofy, it's just like an ignorance of the situation. They just haven't been through it. And so when you can open someone's horizon and get back to that play, because how many adults really play anymore? Like very few,
Yeah.
right? And I have dance parties in my living room with my son because sometimes I just don't know what else to do with him, and he loves it. And I feel amazing afterwards because I was just creative and playing. And when you're in a role that you take on a lot of other people's stress, and I can walk around the school hallways and see it. The teachers have their kids and they just absorb. And if you don't release that, find your way to release it, it can bog down everyone. And then that one person says something mean to someone else and it's a domino effect. And then you wake up and you don't really want to go to work anymore. And it's work. It became less about your passion, because I think most teachers, they're passionate about kids and teaching. And when you lose sight of that because of the things that you are now not aware of, it's harmful. It's harmful to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's remember to play, and a guided meditation is using your imagination again. Mm-hmm. And you're doing it for yourself. I'm guiding you through it, but you're the one that's actually witnessing your body. So body scans, witnessing how you actually feel, that's you doing that.
Mm-hmm. So the last question before we kind of jump over to just some personal growth questions is, if someone isn't sure where to start, and I'm just with mindfulness, meditation, yoga, whatever it might be, what are a few ideas you have for them to start?
YouTube. I think there's thousands of, and don't nix the ones with small views, because maybe they're just up and coming and maybe they have like the newest, latest and greatest stuff. So don't nix those. But there's like, I don't know, Yoga with Adrienne. We were talking about that, and I love her videos. And every yoga class I take, I learn something from that teacher, just like anyone would. So just someone told me that in college, every class you go to, like, go to class, because every class you go to, you're going to learn at least one valuable thing. And most of the time it's about my body. Every time I'm in a yoga class from someone else, anytime I'm in a different city, I go to a yoga class, because it doesn't matter. Sometimes you hear things from another teacher and you can interpret that to yourself, whereas another teacher said it to you a million times, you just didn't hear it right. They just were not speaking to you in ways that you could understand it. So go to a yoga class, and if you hate it, that wasn't the teacher for you. Go to a different class. I haven't always liked every teacher that I've gone to, or every teacher I've been with in school, right? But find that one teacher that connects to you, or find it on YouTube. But being in the experience of it is unlike anything else. You know, there's the sweat, and there's restorative yoga, and other classes that are a little less sweaty. But I was trained in hot house yoga, the hatha yoga in Iowa City, and man, you sweat out everything, every pore in your body. It's amazing. So, if you don't like one type of yoga, take a different yoga. Sit in stillness. Don't call it yoga if you don't want to. Call it stretching. It's body movement. And the thing I like about yoga is it's that mind, body, and your spiritual level, whatever you believe in. You're connecting all of that, and that's the whole person. That's your whole being. And you get reminded of that every class you take. So then, you haven't lost yourself of your identity in this busy world.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about Yoga with Adrienne. I looked it up. When I mentioned you before the show, there was a couple snow days that we had here, and I could not get to the gym. And I YouTube searched, and I chose yoga with, hold on a second, Cassandra.
Oh yeah, she's great. And she is what, Canadian?
I was like, before the show, I said, is Adrian Canadian? Because whoever I chose, whoever I went to was Canadian. So Cassandra is Canadian, and she's got the cat sometimes that go in and out of the video. Yes.
Yeah, Adrian has the dog, and yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep going here on the. Okay, so before the show, you showed me your phone, and you had a yoga like podcast up. It looked like. Is there any like go-to yoga or mindfulness podcast that you would recommend?
I'm always into like I like the audiobooks a lot. So my audiobook list is like super long. So if you want to know anything about yoga, well, I guess the things that I read about, I find the most interesting, right? Obviously. But if you want to start with yoga and mindfulness, the first book you have to read is How Yoga Works.
Okay.
By Geshe Michael Roach. And I've seen your list of books, and I think this one's right up your alley. Like if you want to know yoga, like this is the book, How Yoga Works. This is the one I still think about when I teach classes. It's like, now I get it. He just describes things and it makes complete sense. Unlike anything else I've ever. And then, oh God, here it goes. The Diamond Cutter. He also wrote The Diamond Cutter. And then the 4 Agreements you have to, I know you've written, yeah, but those ones, the 4 Agreements can relate to kids, can relate to teachers, be impeccable with your word. And then that, like, don't take anything personally.
Love it. I didn't get a chance, but I'm going to get How Yoga Works here when we're done.
I have to.
It's a rule of thumb. If the book sounds halfway interesting, just get it.
It's super interesting. It's, and there's some weirdo stuff in it that you can either take or leave. And that's how I feel about any podcast. But also with the personal development, it was when I was teaching people at the studio and working at the schools where How to Win Friends and Influence Others, that Dale Carnegie. And I know that sounds funny on like, how does that relate to yoga and mindfulness? But it 100% works in every situation. Mm-hmm. So if you're kind of like, why am I not getting along with this person? Why do they not realize what I'm saying is right? Like, read that book, Audible it. Just like I always listen to it on the way to school and the way back. If I ever have a problem with someone, I'll just put that on again and start figuring out how to make a problem not such a problem.
Love it.
So that personal development I'm so into, because the world doesn't have to be as hard as some people think it is.
Okay. So before we go to our scripted questions, I know we're getting late here, but what about, there's some meditation apps out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts. I've had a lot of guests on this show who have done the different apps, the different ones you pay for. Do you have any opinion on that, or have you tried anything out?
No, not really.
Okay.
Yeah, I know nothing about that, because all day long I'm doing that, right?
Sure.
So, but I'm sure that they're all probably good. If you think they're good and you think they're going to work, they probably will. It's like when I've been in certain schools and the people think it's crap, especially, not all teachers are going to love yoga and mindfulness. That's okay. But if they think it's crud, it's probably not going to work for their classroom, right? Yep. So you think an app can help you in between maybe coming home from work, then yeah, let it help you. It will. I forget some of the names. I probably downloaded some of the apps because people have asked me, but I don't really know. You can even just play the YouTube video of a guided meditation. That's what I go on. Guided meditation for anger. This kid's really angry today. We're going to sit for 20 minutes and just listen to it. And then I'm going to ask him how he feels afterwards. And, it's just like an adult. Just, you got to do it. You can't just say yoga doesn't work unless you experience it. Mm-hmm. Just like you can't say it does work unless you try it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work overnight. You're not going to love it. The first couple yoga classes I took, like, this was a huge mistake getting into teacher training. It's way harder than I thought it was. But then you keep going, and just like with anything that's hard, what's that saying? Like, if it doesn't change you, if it wasn't hard, it doesn't change you, or something.
Yeah. 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 Everything you're saying, it almost sounds like working out a little bit. Like what I tell people is I don't really care. It doesn't matter what you do or what program you use, as long as it motivates you and it puts you in a better, gets you in shape and it gets you in a better mindset. Like, doesn't, it works, so don't overthink the program or the app, so, all right, Allison, can I get you for like 10 more minutes here? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So this is episode 62. We're with Allison Phelps, which you're right. It's kind of hard for a kid to say Phelps, huh? Yoga teacher, mindfulness coach at the Muscatine Community School District, doing some great things for kids. I would love to have you working in our district. I wish you could make the commute here about 2.5 hours away.
Maybe we could do something like a day with your teachers.
I'm thinking we might have to talk about this. I think it might be worth looking into. I think we didn't mention that she's got a brand new baby boy, Kane, 19 months old.
Yeah.
Super cute. If you look her up on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, you'll see some pictures of Kane running around. So, so she's busy, but I think you have some potential for some sort of like consulting work down the road, or if that's, you got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I would say that that's something I think about goal wise. I would love that. That's the expansion.
I think so too. All right, Allison, we're going to hit our quick hitters here, which are we got about 10 questions. I just whatever comes to your mind here. So the first question I always ask is, and this is funny because I lived there for a couple of years. If listeners come to Muscatine, and I know like putting you on the spot, but what's one place you've got to check out?
Oh my God, there's so many, because I know the owners of so many.
Yeah, that's tough. We're in a tough spot.
Woof. Oh, all of them. When I moved here, I'm like, guys, there are so many great people who've lived here.
Sure.
They're like, it's Muscatine. I'm like, no, there's 2nd Street and the riverfront, and it's beautiful. And there's these old Victorian houses that you drive up 3rd and 4th Street, and then there's the farmland and the soccer fields, and the Muscatine melons, and that farmers market on Saturday mornings that's like right outside the Central State Bank. Muscatine is super beautiful.
It is.
When you think about like small little river town, they still have the barges coming through. I think anywhere you go for food, it's like they put their heart into it. So I shy away from mentioning one place, because that's just the way it is here.
Sure.
They really it's awesome for food wise. You never have a bad dinner anywhere.
Awesome. Okay. Next question. What is one up to $50 purchase you have made in the last year that has made life easier?
Oh my God, Amazon. God, it's that's definitely my guilty. Probably this is a silly one, but it's the phone snap on the back of my but because you can put phones down and they charge on those things, this little, what are they, pop sockets?
Yeah, pop socket. Yeah.
This one actually comes off, so you can still charge, because when you have a pop socket on there, you can't charge like in a car that just has one of those pads. So silly, but this would be that, or probably anything to do with a toddler or baby, because everyone has like this you need to buy for your kid.
So yeah, a pop socket, in case you couldn't, some of you are just listening at home, it's a pop socket that just pops off pretty easily.
Yeah.
So,
It
okay.
it just attaches and you can move it, and it has this little thing.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know,
Awesome.
really, but it works.
Hey, that's what we're looking for, like little gadgets that just make life easier. So, okay, earlier you mentioned you rattled off like 4, 5, 6 different books, which was great. I love everything that,
I literally have so many. Like when I was looking at your list, I'm like,
yeah.
yes, I like that one. Um, Quantum Healing, Deepak Chopra. Do you know him?
Say
Oh,
that again. No, I missed that.
so Deepak Chopra. It's Deepak Chopra, Chopak. Man, anything Wayne Dyer, Michael Singer. The Untethered Soul is really good about talking about like the voice inside your mind. So that's mindfulness.
Mm.
How to
Mm.
just be a witness of it. Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. But yeah, if you haven't done the How Yoga Works or the Diamond Cutter, those were two. So my dad's a patent attorney in Madison, Wisconsin, where I grew up in Madison. And I made him read the Diamond Cutter, and he's like, yeah, I mean, this is so anywhere along the lines, whether you're a yoga teacher or patent attorney, um, it, it goes for any stage or age group.
So that voice and that idea about the voice in your head, I totally, I mean, I feel I've got some moderate anxiety, and I struggle sometimes to sleep. It's that dang voice in your head.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wrote a blog about this, like that whole like idea about time traveling.
Yeah.
Like I can never be in the moment. I'm always thinking in the future or in the past. I can never be in the present. What's the best, maybe you've already said it, maybe it is one of the books you mentioned. What is that? What was the book that you mentioned, or what is the best book about taming that voice in your head? Do you have one direction you can point me?
It probably is that Michael Sanger, The Untethered Soul. And it looks like a very like female romantic cover. There's a horse running on it. But it's really not. I've read many chapters of that to certain classes that I feel like kind of need that oh wait, that voice inside my head, that anxiety. This whole COVID thing has really
Mm-hmm.
some kids that I would never have thought are dealing with certain issues are dealing with some stuff from just watching the news, feeling the anxiety of their parents, not being able to see their friends. This whole next generation, I'm very worried for. And a lot of times they're just at home listening to the voice inside their head. And so becoming a witness to it, it's that rock star. Saying something in your head. Did I say that on the show, or was that before the show came on?
I think you said it on the show. It's okay though.
Okay, yeah, and just allowing them to, say a word inside their head, um, and then like, who said that voice? Did you say? Can you hear that voice? Well, no. Do you have ears inside your mind? Like you just witnessed, and now you are aware that you're witnessing it, and there's no judgment on that. So that's the whole mindfulness, being aware in the moment, because the only place you learn is in the moment. Like, yes, you can learn from something that happened in the past. Yes, you can think about something that's happening in the future, but where you absorb your knowledge and information and your learning is like right now in this moment. So if you're constantly thinking about something that happened or is going to happen, that you've blocked out your learning, right? Or like if you're in the shower, but you're actually mentally in your first meeting thinking about that, and all the words you're going to say, you no longer have a sense of like your body, your awareness. Just be in the shower, just smell the flowers. And actually one of the self-care classes I taught for the teachers in yoga, awesome person, she came up to me the next morning, she's like, I actually sat outside and I watched a bumblebee land on a flower, and it was one of the most peaceful things in the last couple of weeks. And now you're aware that, wow, why don't I have this peace in my life? Like, I like that. I'm going to bring some more of it. It's just bettering your life for whatever you want to make it.
Okay. what is the next question is, and it kind of ties in a little bit to what you're talking about the kids being at home and on their phones, right? So what is one phone app, and we know you don't do the meditation app. So what is one phone app that has positively impacted your life?
Positive and negative. Amazon. Positive is I order like so much from it, knowledge wise, all my books. What else? I really love Instagram. I'm an Instagram person. My husband's a Twitter person. He doesn't do any other social media, but he gets all of his knowledge, Bitcoin, that stuff on there, cryptocurrency info.
Yeah.
I like Instagram, the pictures, and then the little, you get to see a little snippet of someone's life, and I hope it's the happy parts, but that's what I post on there. And I love being able to go through, and I wish I could minimalize my Instagram, but then I kind of forget about some of those great moments, and it's sort of a diary of a year ago this happened. So Facebook too, I guess, the memories that pop up a year ago, you were doing this with this person. And I think that's pretty cool.
But you seem like a person who really thinks about what's going to make me happy. And so many people get negative thoughts that come from social media. Is there any way that you can describe your philosophy around using or looking at social media?
Well, it's algorithms, right? So law of attraction, what you put out there, you're going to get back in. So if you search for it, you're going to find it. If you don't, or you kind of pick through some of those, if someone's over, you look at someone and you're like, this person really doesn't make me very happy, unfriend them or not block them, but just you cannot look at them anymore. So it's one of those things, you're going to get what you want. Social media doesn't discriminate. It just is. People post, and if you want it, if you choose to look at it, then that's your choice. So stop choosing to do that.
I know I did not give you this question ahead of time, but I'm curious. What are your thoughts with children and social media?
Yeah. Now having a kid of my own, it's very hard and very scary, because this information is coming to them, and they may not have a parent right then and there to walk them through some of these things that are hard to understand. So I do worry about that. Would I ever think that I was a parent that would limit screen time? No, but now I think I totally would. I'm more of a go outside and get dirty, but I think you have to model it. If you don't model it, if I were to just walk into a classroom and say, do this yoga pose, people would look at me like, go whatever yourself. No way. But if I get into it and I model it and it's exciting, then they're going to, what you put out there, you get back in for the most part. And same thing, that's my philosophy with parenting, and my philosophy with teaching. I think if you don't model it, then they're never going to accept that it's something that they should really even want to have an interest in doing. Screen time, you just, I don't know, hope for the best. You just try to, as much as you can, help them through it, because if they don't see it at home, probably at some point they're going to see it with friends and whatever. So just have that open communication, ask me questions. No question is stupid. Or, hey, this is going on, are you, check in with your kids or whoever else you're around.
You seem like a very reflective person. Can you think of how a particular failure set you up for later success?
Yeah. Okay. So I applied to work at, very specifically, Kent Feeds. Because I actually ended up graduating in equine science management, completely but I grew up with horses. I thought, but in order to make a career for myself, I wasn't going to go down that path. It's a hobby. So they had an equine inside sales position. Coming out of college, I don't know what inside sales is. So anyways, I go in and I'm like, well, I have this degree. I can totally do this, whatever, whatever. But someone else was more qualified for the role and they ended up getting it. But that, it still crushed your ego. I wanted to have the job. I got my little suit on and went in for the interview and I was so nervous. And, but had I got that position, yes, that would be awesome. And I could add it to my resume, but would it have ever led me down a path to thinking that there's more of a creative, I could have this awesome creative role that I love so much. And I'm blessed to, I wake up thinking like, cool, like I love being in the school district. So not like, that's one of my best failures, I would say. If I had gotten that role, I would have thought maybe, I need to work harder in an office setting. And that's just really not my jam. So I maybe would have been a good employee, but like not liked where I was. And I really like to be creative. That fulfills me. Mm-hmm. So how creative could I have been in that role? Probably not so much. So failures are amazing. They suck when they first happen. Think about them later.
Yes. Okay. So you've got, you've been a business owner, you're working in the schools, you've got a baby boy, you've got a family, you read, you reflect, you do all these different things. What is your best tip for being productive?
Always moving. So we've got a horse, a full-size donkey, a mini donkey, and a pony, and 2 goats. The goats just came recently, but, and my best tip is always moving. So I'm outside on the farm, like using my hands. I would say that's my meditation. Some people think meditation as like you just sit on a cushion in stillness, nothing happening. But my meditation is being on the farm and basically scooping manure. Like it's a routine and I clean out the stall. And once I've cleaned out the stall, I feel accomplished. And like, I love the smell of sawdust. And that brings me back to something in my childhood that I cherish so much. And I get to be with these grand animals and creatures. And so there's my, that's keeping moving, doing something that connects me to like a root that I love and really think highly of, I think is something that can keep someone going for a long time. It's when you stop moving, you stop going forward. Mm-hmm. And not just like as a doer, but like as a being too. That helps me be keeps me balanced.
What is one big goal you are currently working on?
Probably figuring out how I want to expand the program or expand, some sort of social, like online teaching classes. I just cannot get over this. How do I stage it? What the lighting? I don't want to put out a product that is terrible. I would like to do something more. I just don't know what or how yet. So I'm always thinking like wheels are turning. I'm seeing what other people are doing. I love the don't reinvent the wheel, but this is kind of, we're just adding to that wheel. That whole mindfulness, I think people are ignoring what people in the way past always have known, but social media kind of takes away from, you never have any time to just sit or be bored. So I think that can help people going forward. I just don't know how to put it out there, except through the school district. And that seems to be working pretty well. Mm-hmm. When you have kids coming up to you and they've got stories for you about how something has helped them, whether it's the breath or I told my grandma to do this, or, my grandma and I did tree pose, like that's cool. So yeah, figuring out my next steps into making this bigger. And if it doesn't, I'm okay with that. I think this is super big, but
I get it. Yeah, no, we're on the same wavelength there. I agree with everything you're saying. COVID it's been a really rough year plus. However, it has opened a lot of opportunities for some outside the box thinking for entrepreneurship, for businesses, for expanding, sharing our content, or whatever we're excited about. So
Right.
we've covered a lot of stuff here, Allison. I've kept you for a little bit longer than I was hoping. So is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you would like the audience to know?
Mm, I don't know. I don't think so. I think we covered it. It's like that. My big thing is always learning, no matter what. Like knowledge is power,
Mm-hmm.
and not power in like, in a negative way or like power in a money way. It's power in like what you want to do. So knowledge allows you to do more. And that's how, just keep learning wherever you are in your life.
And that's kind of you did a great job of kind of wrapping up the show, because that's really what the show is about, educators, leaders, lifelong learners kind of sharing their stories and, trying to pick one or two things from each show that they can implement in their own life. And I think there's a number of different things in this show that we talked about that I have not talked about before. That was awesome. And
Cool.
I really feel like people listening should look at, mental health, as you mentioned early in the show, like
Yeah.
so big right now in districts. And a lot of districts have some discretionary funds that district leaders get to choose how to allocate those funds. And I'm guessing that's probably how your position is, something along those lines, how yours is paid for. I just think people need to start thinking outside the box in terms of how they can meet the needs of the students. And everything you described with what you're doing with kids sounded amazing. So, Allison, keep up the great work. It was great connecting with you. And again, one more time, if people want to, what did you mention? If people want to, you mentioned one spot that's probably the best to connect with you at. Where would you have them
Well,
go?
probably the Facebook page. So it's Mrs. Phelps Yoga Forum.
Okay.
Yoga Forum. Yep, Mrs. Phelps Yoga Forum. I do have a YouTube channel. I post things a little bit there, but or muscatineyoga.com.
Okay.
muscatineyoga@gmail.com is the email. But I don't have my yoga studio open right now, but you never know. Who knows?
Sure.
Right?
So
I'm open to it.
yeah, I will say, Allison will definitely, if you've got questions, she will follow up with you and give you the best, any point you in any direction or give you whatever advice. She's more than willing to help people kind of grow personally. So appreciate it, Allison. I will let you get back to little Kane there. I'm sure he's excited to see you again.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Spreading this into your school district, just having you be open to it is really cool.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening. This was episode number 62 with Allison Phelps. If you liked what you listened to, always remember to download the show, subscribe, and rate and review the show. It really helps others find the podcast. So, Allison, have a great night, and we'll be in touch, okay?
Thank you.